Yeah, go click it into that camera there.
Rohan Mogridge, scene 1. Click.
Check that down there. Rohan Mogridge.
Yep.
If you could be an animal, what animal do you think you would be?
Jeez, I haven't put a lot of thought into that.
What's that animal, do you reckon?
Like a tiger or something.
Why? Would that suit your personality? What?
Maybe.
What?
They're agile, they're strong, aggressive. I don't know, I've never thought about it.
There you go. Put you on the spot.
I'm not
There we go.
aggressive, but...
No, that's fine.
Capable.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
All right, so start us for as far as you can remember, like say 5, 6-ish till the last couple of years of high school. Just tell us about your family and how you grew up and what you did, and talk us through your school life.
School life. Well, parents sent us to St Peter's College, which we hated, Dino and I. And we used to have to catch the train, then the bus up North Terrace, go to school every day and wear your uniform and do church stuff. And we hated it. So there was that. We always had BMXs, skateboards, always doing the same stuff. So grew up in Hawthorne Dean, sort of always been around Blackwood. Rode bikes, did Zendu Kai and stuff. I think that was my parents trying to do some discipline or something. Used to go camping, 4 times a year, pretty regular. I don't know. That's.
And what did school interest you? Did you like school?
I was good at it, but I didn't really like it. I don't know how. I sort of would never do homework and always managed to pass and just sort of fluffed my way through. I was more of a technical sort of minded person. Like pulling things apart and putting them back together and all that sort of stuff.
Tell us a bit about your family.
Family. So you got a daughter. She's 5 years old, Millie, and then there's Lauren. So we live up in Blackwood there. They've just been down in the Plaster Funhouse for her birthday. So that's that. Mum, Dad, Dino. I don't know what was that.
What was life like growing up?
So parents split up when we were, I don't know, maybe 10 or 12 for me, and then we lived with Mum in Blackwood, and it was sort of she was pretty good. We had a big rumpus room and always had mates over, and it was good. So, and then eventually, I think I was about 26, and I got the Big Bird letter. She wrote me a handwritten letter, and it's time for the big bird to leave the nest. So Dino got the same one, and we couldn't afford to buy a house on our own, so we went in together and moved into Flagstaff Hill and had a bit of a bachelor's pad there. For about the first 8 years, it was just bachelor lifestyle, parties, running amok. Eventually Dino moved out, so I bought him out. Yeah, cool.
And bikes. People listening to this podcast thing is starting with bike guys. It's going to go to other guys, but you fell into bikes or bikes fell into you?
Yeah, I think I always started off as motor transport, BMX. Eventually started working in the bike shop.
Which shop?
Cycle rider, old Jeff Miller, the Angry Viking, they used to call him. There was a pretty big group of us. You had like the likes of Matt Townsend and Dino and myself and old Crazy Trav. There'd be a big group of people hanging out, and we'd be there with our bikes, and we'd find a tree to do a jump off, and we're just always riding. And it just progressed into more jumps and fun, and
And was that you started on BMX?
Started on BMX. Eventually went to mountain bikes.
And so, where did bikes take you? What were some of the things? How did it progressed for you?
Well, did a lot of travelling, did some pretty cool stuff. The Red Bull stuff, Red Bull Ride and the Jindabyne, the first one. Forget what that one was called. It was something different, but
All-terrain challenge.
yeah,
I think,
the all-terrain mountain bike challenge. That was pretty cool. So, yeah.
And who are you spending your time with?
Just, well, you guys, the, Marshy, Grant, all the downhill guys, like Zanari and the Westies, and everyone was pretty active. So it was almost every weekend you'd be out doing something different.
Step us back to some of the BMX, tricks or comps, or how did you approach trying to learn a new thing? How did you approach that?
Well, we didn't grow up with all this YouTube, and there was no guide on how to do it. We hadn't seen it done, so we were like the first to even doing a 360 and stuff like that. There wasn't a lot of videos or anything you could look at like on the internet these days. Rev each other up, give it a go. Went lake jumping down at Frank Smith Dam there. So learnt how to do forward flips and all sorts of 360s and different combos. And it's not as easy as you think. The water sort of hurts, so yeah.
And you were more of a forward flip than a backflip guy, yeah?
Yeah, just something in me. I couldn't do backflips, so I stuck with the forward flips. And yeah, I think when I was trying them, I was probably about the third bloke in the world that I know of, anyway. So
yeah. Didn't see too many people trying that sort of stuff.
Yeah, but on with the moto armour and just pad right up and full face helmet and just send it. Yeah.
And so BMX progressed into mountain bikes at some point. Do you know how old you were when you made that kind of transition?
Hard to say. I mean, I've still got a BMX now that I ride, but I think I switched to mountain bikes probably around sort of 14, 15 mark, I reckon. Did some downhills and we're getting some exposure, and Giant got on board and helped us out with some bikes, and it was always handy being in the bike shop. So, yeah.
And did you travel much with that sort of thing?
Yeah, did a lot of the Bullers and the Beauties, and we'd just load up the car and go anywhere. Palmer, just random places. Yeah.
Free ride.
Yeah. Well, that's where it progressed to, wasn't it? So, got sick of the whole race scene, and we just went and saw what was possible. So went and tried everything, didn't we? So,
tell us a couple of places that you went and did some bigger, scarier. Tell us a couple of your scarier things you did, or
probably the Bluff and Merino Rocks, and there was that quarry out at Hallett Cove. I remember you doing some ridiculous drop off the big steel structure there and nearly folding your legs in half.
Are you all right?
Yeah, it was. Oh man, there's so many places in SA.
And describe a typical weekend back then. And we're talking. And tell us what year we'd do it pretty regularly.
Yeah, so probably around your 2000 mark. We built some big jumps up at Grant's parents' farm. I don't know, I reckon they might have been like 50 foot, so maybe, we're talking 15, 20 metres or something like that. There were some big gaps. And, we just built these monstrous jumps, and then all right, someone's got to try it, so off you go. And, it was awesome, yeah. We didn't have a foam pit, but we built a hay pit. And trying all sorts of stuff into the hay, and it's again it's not very soft, but that's like a typical weekend. Red Banks out there. I think there was a bit of trouble. We weren't meant to be there, but yeah.
And we had this opportunity. We used to do some of the BMX demos with some motocross events, and had a chance to do that one out at Port Gawler. And you designed a ramp for us to jump off. Tell us about that.
Well, we worked out, I think it was about a 30-degree pitch was kind of the safest for distance. And then, so
And you worked that out. How did you come? I didn't have anything to do with that. I think you were the guy.
A bit of an engineering background, so back not too long before I did a mechanical engineering diploma, and so I was pretty good at the math side of it. And we told them what we want. They made it. We rocked up there. They had a quad, tow rope, and big landing, and we started off small and kept towing it back. And yeah, I think we were probably limited by space. If anything, we could have just kept going. So that was something else.
How far do you remember? What distances? And had you seen that done anywhere else before?
On a motorbike, but yeah, it's a bit different on a mountain bike, isn't it? I don't know. We must have been again. I don't know. I'd have to look back. It was big. There was
I think it was around 20 metres ish or something like that.
Yeah,
and maybe got a little bit past that.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Okay, and what do you do with yourself nowadays? Like it's 2024. What does Rohan Mogridge do with himself now?
Yeah, so I've got a scaffolding background. I've been a scaffolder for about 25 years now. I've progressed. I've got my own business, mobile scaffolds, bought with a mate of mine. I actually started working there when I was about 18. I just finished my engineering diploma. In fact, I was doing it at the same time, and by the time I finished the engineering diploma, I fell in love with scaffolding and sort of never left. I worked at one place. I worked at Mobile Scaffolds for about 8 years, and then I'd got all my advanced ticket and all the training that was possible, and then I sort of branched off and got into the industrial stuff, different experiences, and come full circle. Anyway, we've bought the business off Shane's parents and been at it for about 5 years, all going well.
And so step back to when you were finishing high school, 17, 18-ish. What were those last couple of high school years like, and what did you think you were going to do after school?
I didn't really put a lot of thought into it, to be honest. I was just being a teenager.
I don't think anyone really does.
I was just riding bikes, to be honest, and hanging out with mates and drinking and carrying on, being a young kid. So, yeah.
Tell us about a couple of places where bike riding took you, like some really cool experiences.
Well, I've got a bee in the bonnet on one because I got a wild card invite to the X Games, and I just didn't have the money, and I've asked my mum, and she's like, nah. So that was probably my missed opportunity with BMX. So that was cool. I was at a point where I got the invite anyway. I just couldn't make it there. The Red Bull stuff was something else. You know, they invited the Americans over. They'd been doing it for a little while. So we were watching it, and then next thing we're invited to this event, and we're just sending it down the mountain.
Who were you doing that with?
Dean, Radnor, Marshy, Grant. I think were you there for? I can't remember.
I don't think I managed to get to them.
Yeah, so yeah, it's pretty cool. Most of them are flying in Rockstar style, and we're loading the trailer and all piled into a car, and off we go on an adventure. There's something else.
Yeah, cool. All right. Tell us about a couple of things that went wrong in your life. Put you on the spot. What didn't work?
Oh, actually, the Winter X Games was pretty cool. We got invited to go race the. It was part of the snow course anyway, and so we spiked our tyres and we had a race, and I think the format was everyone took off at once, and it was just a race down the hill, and it had jumps and berms and all sorts of stuff. I remember we had an expression session at the end, and I've gone for a Superman into a hill clicker and just overshot the landing and just sent it. and came down on my handlebars, busted my sternum, broke an ankle, and just sliding down the hill. But the funny thing was it made the Sports Night Play of the Day, and Tim Ginniver cringed, and that was what everyone remembers for it. But yeah, so I mean that was one. I couldn't even recount all my injuries. I've had 4 knee reconstructions, about 3 other cleanups, shattered ankle, severely fractured wrist. I've tore my bicep off my right arm, got that reattached, multiple ribs. I think I've had 14 reconstructive surgeries.
And that's all from bikes?
Not all bikes, some from my Thai boxing days, and most recently from being old, sort of worn out. So, I had a hip replacement as well. There was that was a big one.
Old man Rohan.
Yeah.
Thai boxing, tell us about that.
Yeah, so that came out of recovery from my first knee recon. I sort of had a brief. I've sort of always done it over the years as a kid, but nothing serious. Went in there and used it as a rehab opportunity, and ended up jumping in the ring and loving it. It's a sort of a bit of a way of life. You do a lot of training, a lot of running. You're always tired, you're exhausted, but there's something about being that fit, that level of fitness. Everything just in your life is sort of easy, but there's a lot of work to get there.
What work is involved in doing that? Tell us more.
The average, normally you'd train 4 days a week, just in the afternoons. But then when you sign up for a fight, it's it's sort of 6 days a week, twice a day. Probably 3 hours a day. Yeah, it's pretty exhausting. You'd get up, run 5Ks in the morning, go to work, full day scaffolding, back down to the gym in the afternoon, 3K run, and then 2 hours of kind of hard training. And that was your average day. So, yeah.
And how long were you doing that for?
10, 12 years, I reckon, competitively.
Did you have many actual fights? How many fights did you have? How'd you go?
I think it was 18 or 19 fights. I think out of that, I lost 3 or 4 of them. I was actually on a 9-fight winning streak when I gave it away. I was hoping to get 10 fights won in a row, but didn't quite get there.
And did you get any injuries in that process as well?
Nothing in the ring. A few, split face and busted nose, and nothing terrible actually, competitively. But yeah, a bit of wear and tear. I was in Thailand training and had a bit of a hero guy dislocate my leg, and it was an illegal move. We were grappling, and he's done this weird sweep and busted my leg. So.
And you went and trained overseas at some point?
Yeah, so I think 5 or 6 times off to Thailand, trained for 3 to 4 weeks. I think I went for 6 weeks at one point and competed over there with the local Thais and stuff. That was a bit of an experience.
How does that compare to what you're doing here in Australia, or what they were?
Well, we're doing it as a hobby, but they live and breathe it. They start when they're 8 years old, and it's a living for them. They everyone gambles on it, and it's huge. It's their national sport. So yeah. All
right, tell us what else has gone wrong over the years.
Well, there was that time where my heart stopped. Yeah, I had a cardiac arrest. I was in Perth working. I'd gone over there. I was just there for a day, investigating a safety accident or something like that. And I'd caught up with a mate, and we're having dinner and reminiscing and having a good old laugh. And then, head on the table, and that was it. I was in a coma for a day and a half. I think took him about 20 minutes to revive me. My mate got straight into the mouth-to-mouth and survived. against the odds. I think I had a 3% chance of living on that one. So, yeah.
How does that change your head or change your attitude to life?
We'll have to go see a cardiologist and take his advice, I suppose. I've got a defib in my chest as a means of insurance.
How long ago was that? How long ago did that happen?
Well, trying to think. It was 2014, September 2014. So I was at the time, I'd signed up for another fight. I was starting to train hard. I was doing a lot of endurance stuff, a lot of running. And yeah, the left side of my heart's much bigger than the right, which is consistent with endurance sports. And heart got out of sync and decided to stop. So, yeah.
Pretty scary.
Pretty scary, yep.
How did the family react to that?
Well, they're pretty freaked out because I woke up in a hospital in Perth, and first thing I saw was my missus, and I'm like, "What are you doing here?" She's like, "Oh, you died." I'm like, "Nah, it must be food poisoning." Just brushing it off, and then yeah, the gravity of it sort of soon set in once I heard the full story.
Did you see anything? Did
Nah.
Did any of the world make sense after that, or
Nah? It just sort of, I think I've suffered a bit of short-term memory loss, so there might have been something there, but I've got no recollection of it. So,
oh, that's good. So,
yeah.
Does it affect you today?
Maybe I take some heart medication, and it kind of it sort of dumbs my fitness down a bit, so it's a bit harder to get out there and do stuff. But just, you move on with it, you get it done. So,
what are you doing now? Like you're saying, your body's got a few old man issues now. How do you approach what you do day to day now?
Oh, slowly, yeah. Just a lot of anti-inflammatories and stuff.
I'm just going to change that.
I stretch, do all that stuff. No, all good.
Back on again, very professional here.
Yep.
My producer's just not here today.
I've lost sound.
We back?
Yep.
That's good.
Yep. Just
There we go.
wiggle the cable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Turn it off, turn it on again. Inspiration. When you was there someone you looked up to? Did you have a fucking role model or a hero or anything like that?
Not really. A couple of my old employers, like I worked for, after Psych Rider, I was at Super Elliott's, old Merrick, who owns that. He just had a different way of thinking. Yeah, like for example, he'd have all these bikes that haven't sold, and he'd, unlike everyone else, he'd just go, just sell them for what they cost me, and I'll put my money into something else. Where other people would, hang on to it, and by the time they've sold them all, no one wants them. He just had some business sense. My old boss at Caledonia, he's been a big inspiration for me to take over my own business, and a lot of hints and tips along the way. I was in the sort of upper management group there for a while, so got to learn all the ins and outs. Yeah, it's probably more just work-life stuff. Yeah, don't know. Probably Matt Hoffman in the early days of the BMX. He was a bit of a trendsetter, wasn't he?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
So what jobs have you done? Like, can you recount the different work you've done over your life, different jobs you've had?
Started off, first job in a butcher shop, working after school. A couple of hours, a few times a week. That was just pocket money sort of stuff. Then into the bike shops. So Cycle Rider, Super Elliott's. When I started at Mobile Scaffolds, I was running all their scaffold fabrication, so aluminium fabrication. They used to make their own scaffold and sell it. And just into scaffolding. I was always kind of a leading hand, supervisor. I got into safety and auditing and all that stuff, and got all my qualifications there. I was even a qualified drug and alcohol sample taker so when they're onboarding new employees, rather than spend $300 at the medical place, we'd do it all in-house. I got all these funny. I'm a trainer and assessor. Got my a trainer and assessor, so I could be a teacher if I want. But yeah, I got a bit of a background.
And so a lot of study involved to get all those
Yeah,
qualifications?
a lot of study. Just sort of it was all work. Did it all in work time kind of thing. So
You got paid to study.
got paid to study.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was lucky. They were a growing business and they needed all these new positions filled, and I just kept putting my hand up. Train me, I'll do it. So it's a good way to progress myself.
Any big stuff ups at work, like things go wrong? No,
Not really. I saw a guy fall off a pretty fair way. Rossi. We were working on it was, I think if I recall, it was the last day of work before the Christmas break, and he was heading over to Melbourne to meet some bird, and he had blinkers on. Last thing he was thinking about was work, and it was a technical job. We'd suspended off this sort of aqueduct that went across a river, and he undid the wrong fitting, and the scaffold dropped, and it pulled him down. His leg bones popped out the side of his leg. Called the ambulance. We had to kind of, manhandle him up the embankment. The ambulance had a special chair with all these handles on it, and all the scaffolders sort of got him up to the ambulance where he could be treated. That was pretty interesting. I saw a crane incident where a sling snapped and the steel beam went down and took out a guy in a elevated work platform. That was full on. I was probably about 20 metres away. I was up the scaffold, so my view was pretty close. That was full on.
And what about in the business sense? Like, does everything always work? Did you always get the fucking dollars kept coming in, or did everything work?
Yeah, I guess. At the moment, employees finding good employees, or they're always doing something wrong. Taxman, or there's always an ATO bill or something. So it's pretty tight at the moment, but you just get on with it and do your thing, roll with the punches.
How many guys in the business that you're in?
There's 10 on the books, so 2 of those are Shane and I. So we've got 8 sort of workers. So
yeah, cool. All right, tell us. Go back to some early inside line mountain bike downhill days. We'll go to a bit of downhilling.
Geez, it's changed now, hasn't it? Like when we started, it was more of a there's a bit of almost like a party sort of. People would be there with beers and there'd be all sorts of smoke clouds sort of coming out as you ride past, people blowing smoke at you, and I'm not sure it was nicotine, but the whole scene's changed now. It's sort of the parents and the kids on the expensive bikes, and it's all it's almost political now. So it's definitely changed in the last 20 years.
You weren't so much into the racing though. You were more the other stuff.
I was just there to have a good time. There might be a big road gap. I'd make sure I'd hit all the big lines and do all the big jumps, and I wasn't really too bothered about what my time was. Just there to hit it. And yeah. What about that Wollonga one where we had a jump comp at the end? That was pretty cool. There was all sorts of first time sort of tricks getting thrown down there.
And that was just a little fly out onto almost flat, like probably a knee-high landing.
Yeah. And the drunk guy jumped on and thought he could give it a crack and landed on his face. I think he called it an albatross or something from memory.
Yeah, I think it's an old skater dude, I think.
Yeah. He didn't end well for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And tell us about some of the guys. Tell us a story about Marshy or Grant, or what pops into your head.
Oh, so Grant was always the first to try something. He'd have something in his mind. He'd go build it. He'd spend ages on the shovel, and he always loved being the first. You got Marshy. He just never fell off. He sort of just, I don't know what it is. Yeah, I don't know what it is with him, but you never see him crash. Always at the top of his game. I don't know who. Just I'm trying to think. Dino. He'd always do everything, but he'd be the last guy to do it or whatever. He took a bit of coaching.
Think about it a little bit more.
Yeah, he was a bit more cautious. Myself, in my youth, I just didn't care. I'd just try it. I didn't. Yeah, somehow I could just roll and tumble and not get hurt.
And we got into a bit of the trial stuff.
Yeah, trials, and started in your backyard there. Got my trials bike. Ended up doing some demos. Had all the boxes set up, and I think it was I can't remember what the events were. But yeah, it was sort of at the stage where we were doing public demos and stuff like that. I got into trials motorbike riding for a while there with Marshy. Did a couple of comps and sold that in the end. But yeah,
Motorbikes,
yep, like my motorbikes, anything on two wheels.
you've done a bit of that. Tell us.
Done a bit of that. Did more the enduro side of thing. Done a few races there. The 24-hour enduro here, which starts at midday and ends at midday the next day. So you're literally racing for 24 hours. I got a third place in that in 2010. That was kind of, I was at the peak of my fitness and all the ducks aligned for me. So that was a good result. Did a lot of 6-hour and 4-hour enduros and always finished well. But still at it. Doing an event next week called the Sand and Swamp, and it's probably 300 odd k's of sand and whoops and whatnot out near the sort of Kingston southeast sort of way. Yeah, so.
And you do some high country ride with some of the boys as well, and your brother and that?
Yeah. So the tours, so Mount Buller, rock up, usually a group of about 10 of us. You get there and you pretty much rock up with your bike with a tank of fuel, and they do everything. So they'll cook your breakfast. They'll have lead riders, sweep riders. You'll have you ride for 4 hours and you're in the middle of nowhere. Come over a crest and there's a track tent and there's hot dogs and barbecues and they cater it. It's really good. So usually about a 3 or 4 day tour. And you're just knackered, like you're riding all day. You barely get yourself out of bed the next morning, and throw on the jacket and the helmet, and off you go. Yeah, lots of river crossings, drowned bikes, just hills that last forever. I busted a shoulder on the last one. Did my rotator cuff. That was another surgery that I forgot about. Probably the most painful one as well. So yeah, shoulders are no good.
When you've had plenty of injuries,
yeah,
where does your head go, and how do you reconcile the recovery?
It's getting harder and harder to switch it off. I used to just ignore it or tell it to shut up in my younger days, and somehow you just get on with it. But it's a bit more draining these days. Yeah.
And how does your body handle that nowadays?
It's the word. It just takes longer to bounce back. Everything's possible, but it just takes a lot more work and dedication and pain. And, obviously at the stage of my life I'm at, there's obviously life, so I can't just spend every day exercising or training or riding, or you got to find time for it as well.
Shoelaces, you good at them?
Yeah, shoelaces are all right. Yeah.
You can bend down and get to them okay?
Yeah, I've got this move where I kind of put my foot on the bed and then I sit down and pretzel myself so I can put my socks on in the morning. And Lauren's joking about there's a couple of aids you can get where you put the sock on and you slide your foot into it. So I've got some backup. I know where I'm headed.
Influences. Who else has influenced you in your life? What takeaways? Whether it's work, business, friends, family? I think it's just your immediate group. Everyone's doing the same thing and you sort of vibe off each other and just, whether it's riding or Thai boxing or even work, it's the group. Yeah. Like, for example, if you're with a good group at work and you're just having fun and banter, it's like you're not working. The job just gets done and
you're just having fun and I don't know how to explain it, but yeah.
No, that's true. You're enjoying it.
Yeah, you just you just get out there and have fun, and everything else is a bonus.
Changing topics. Death has death impact, whether it's family, friends, loved one, pets. You know, have you got a moment there where it's got to you, or
not really. I keep I keep getting hounded to do my will. I've never done one, even though I had my little incident. But I think starting a family might changes your perspective or priorities a bit. But I don't think, you know, death has affected me specifically. Yeah, I don't think about it much.
no? That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Adversity again. Back to adversity. What have you struggled with over the years? So you've had a lot of injuries. You've had, you know, you run a business.
Yeah.
You got a few takeaways of?
I mean, when we bought the business, we weren't drawing a wage. We were literally doing all the work ourselves. You know, 14-hour days. Sitting there with the car headlights on, trying to finish off a job because you got to start a new one the next day, and you don't want to let people down. And there was a bit of a fair battle there for the first couple of years when we started. That was we had to dig deep a lot of the time, but we're sort of we're reaping the rewards now, I guess.
What's a typical day for you like nowadays? How does a typical day run for you?
Well, I start early. I try and get all the quoting done, you know, site visits, all of that stuff, and then you'll go back and there's kind of all the desk stuff, you know, submitting quotes, blah blah blah, all of that stuff, or a lot of hoop jumping in our game. You know, you got to get all the swims and the JSAs and all the this and that ready for people. I call it hoop jumping. And the last part of the day is kind of planning for the next day, hand over to the guys, sort of show them what's happening. And, you know, I find if I spend a bit more time explaining things at the end of the day, things seem to go smoothly. So.
And how frustrating are employees?
Well, they're terrible. The more people you have working for you, the more work you have just putting out fires. But yeah, it's a balance. You've got to kind of give them the trust and train them, and kind of just roll the dice and hope they get it. Otherwise, you replace them and try with someone else. But it's constant.
Have you had to fire anyone? How does that feel?
Yeah, I've even in past jobs, I've always been a bit of a hire and fire guy. So, I mean, it's not personal. I'm just like, mate, it's not going to work out. You got to go. So, it gets easier.
Tough gig.
Yeah.
Tough gig. All right, back to some of the early days of BMX riding. Step back to when you're in your early 20s, let's say.
Yeah.
What was it? Was BMX still at 20?
Yeah,
Was BMX the main
BMX.
thing?
Well, we had a lot of it was routine. Like you'd meet down at Blackwood BMX track, you know, on Tuesdays, and then you'd meet at the city track on Thursdays, and you know, it was just routine. Everyone was always doing the same thing, and it was constant. So, yeah.
Dirt jumps, legal dirt jumps, illegal dirt jumps. Going back to the start, what was it like?
Yeah, well, I mean, most of it was illegal. We went, we fought the council for ages, and we built and designed the Blackwood track there, or Hawthorne Dean.
Who's we?
So it was like Dean, myself, Matt Townsend, another bloke, Gorby, that we grew up with, and we had to go to council meetings and, you know, all that stuff. But we got there in the end.
And were there many places to ride back then, or?
pretty limited. You know, it was mostly what we built ourselves was what we had to ride. Yeah.
And then the different groups of riders, like there was pockets of guys here and there. Tell us about some of the different BMX riders, some of the guys that the crews you'd meet along in the day.
Yeah, I guess you had your sort of skate park crews who sort of spent most of the time in skate parks. And then you had your just dirt jumpers. Then there was the BMX races. You know, there was a few variations there.
And in the dirt jumpers, do you remember some of the guys from Adelaide, like specifically Adelaide? Like, do you remember some of the different names and who was doing what back when?
I mean, we had it was all the same people, wasn't it? You had like the, what's his name? Pelican and his brother.
Beards, Jeremy.
The Beards, yeah, I'm having a mental blank. You know, Paul Rudd, Jared Simpson, Jesse Carlson. It was the same crew. Like, Jesse was always he was ahead of the game with his, variation 360s. I think he was one of the first to be doing backflips in competition. Paul Rudd and Jared, they're always ripping.
And there's different styles then. There was tricks and there was trails. Like there was a difference between some of the guys, would you say, or style versus?
I think everyone has their own unique style, don't they? Like Jesse was always smooth and flowing. Some guy, I don't know. It's a hard one to explain, but everyone has their own unique style, don't they?
Did you do any of the Supercross demos?
I did a couple of them, yeah.
What was that like?
It was pretty cool, yeah.
Explain what you were doing and where you were.
Well, you're in the middle of a stadium, massive couple of sets of doubles, and usually someone there on the microphone sort of revving up the crowd, and pretty good atmosphere. You know, everyone was just sending it, just trying everything, riding over cars and all sorts. It's pretty cool. I actually found some old photos from one of those, and it looks pretty good. Going back, reliving the moments.
Yeah, I don't think they do that stuff anymore. And that was when the only people doing backflips were on a BMX. Motocross wasn't doing backflips.
Yeah, it was before that. Yeah, we probably didn't even have much internet or anything back then. It was early days. I think I look back. There was a clip on Facebook, and it was one of the jump comps at Wollonga, and I worked out it was in the 90s. It makes you feel old looking back. It was just unbelievable.
It doesn't seem, well, I say we're coming up to 30 years since we registered this name, but good 25-ish years of lots of cool stuff going on. Not the last 10, but back in from the late 90s to 2010 kind of thing-ish.
Yeah. I'll miss just, a whole bunch of guys just loading up cars and going into state and running amok. And there's always a lot of riding, a lot of partying.
Tell us about, can you remember one or two?
Well, I remember we were in Canberra. I can't remember what the event was, but we drove down to Fishwick. It was legal to buy firecrackers there. And we might end up back at Mount Beauty or something from memory, but we obviously had firecrackers and we were being inappropriate with them. I remember we were eating in KFC and I pulled the plastic plug off of a chair and I went to put it in there and put the plug on, but I missed and it's hit the ground, so I sort of kicked it and it's gone towards the counter and gave this poor girl, she's carrying trays and stuff, the fright of her life. And we just got up and walked out like, can't believe that just happened. There was another moment where I let one go in the pub and they kicked us all out and there was police there and all sorts.
Was that the Canberra night when they shut the place really early, like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock or something?
And then everyone was out the front.
Into the street.
Yeah, and then, police were trying to move everyone around. And that was fireworks related. So.
We'll see you again next weekend. Good
I'm going to press play on this other camera here again.
What's happening?
Yeah, it's all good.
Because you guys are wankers.
All right, well, how are we doing here? We going all right?
We're going all right.
Yeah.
It's hard to recall all this. There's been a lot we've done.
Yeah,
there's a lot of stories.
We're new to this, and
Yeah.
we'll get better at it, and we'll keep talking and telling some
The
stories.
stuff on the tip of my tongue, but I'm not quite recalling it.
Got to put your head in there. If I can get a screen here, and we can look at the thing and see it.
Yeah.
All right, go back to some of your injuries again. Put your head back into that place.
Yeah.
How long does recovery take, and what do you do when you're recovering?
What? Well, let's revisit that one at Dingley Dell there, where the dog ran out and bit my wheel, and I lost control at full pace as I was about to drop in to hit the step up there, and ended up ploughing into some rocks. I busted my hand really badly, dislocation of the knee, recon. Yeah, that took ages. There was when they put my wrist back together, they put a pin, although they call them K-wires. You have the little rods hanging out the side of your arm. They actually put one through a nerve, and it just wasn't healing. And the doctor's sort of treating me like I'm in there trying to get drugs out of him or something. And it wasn't until he pulled the pin out he realised what he'd done, and that delayed my recovery for what took 6 weeks. Probably took about 6 months, and then knee recons aren't probably a year, before you're back.
And what are you doing if you're always active and you always want to be doing stuff? What do you end up doing?
Well, you ride your bike.
But you're injured, you can't.
Well, that's what they tell you.
Yeah.
They say you shouldn't, but there's nothing stopping you riding through National Park with a group of lads and just going for a ride, is there? So.
All right, talking about riding through parks. In the early days, there were no legal mountain bike parks. Where did riding used to happen in Adelaide? We're talking mid-90s.
Yeah, like lofty runs. You'd be on the main walking trail, just bombing down there and scaring the hell out of walkers. And Blair National Park.
And it was all illegal.
It wasn't permitted. It's getting better. But yeah, we just did it, and people would shake the fist at you when you go past them. But could have
And
fun.
now we got mountain bike parks at Eagle, Fox, all these different legal trails that you can go to.
Skate park in every suburb, just about, or BMX track. It's changing.
Were you much into the skate park thing or more dirt? What was your thing?
I had a stage there where I put the pegs on, and we used to go to the skate park pretty regularly. I was hitting the spine and doing 360s over it and getting most of the tricks. Probably spent about a year doing that, I think. And then it's kind of one of those things. I think when you're in a group and you're all doing it, it's all good, but then people sort of start going separate ways and it just fizzles out. It sort of comes in waves, I guess. So that was the end of skate park riding. Then back on the mountain bike or something and do something else. So.
Can you remember a time where I just did this thing and that was fucking awesome? Like, did anything jump to mind when it really, or even before you think you're going to do something, the night before you're going to do this big jump or something?
Yeah.
Can you put your head into a place where you're going to do a big drop at the moon or?
Yeah.
Or you got in your head, tomorrow there's a jump comp, I want to do this trick.
Yeah. I guess you fire yourself up a bit. Stuff like doing drops, you're generally making you're scratching around with a shovel and you're clearing stuff out and you're sort of building it, and I think you spend that time preparing. Jump comps are a little different. I think I was just a bit blasé. I'd just rock up and just do it because I had no...
You were there to win.
Just there to ride. Yeah. Wasn't afraid of crashing.
Which is a lot of...
I was indestructible.
Yeah. Rubber bones.
Yeah.
Are you indestructible now?
Nah, not so much. Nah.
What advice would you give a youngster? I mean, now they're starting so much younger than where you were in your mid-teens, 20s.
Yeah.
But kids are doing it at 6 and 10 now.
Well, you've got to know how to crash. I use the MacGyver roll. You got to sort of do a bit of a roll and keep the momentum moving. You don't want to just fall flat. That's when you hurt yourself. MacGyver roll. That's my advice.
So you're still into dirt jumps now, or has your riding style changed now as you're older in a family?
I still hit pretty big jumps. I'm not sort of going, oh, let's go hit some jumps. But if they're there, I'll do it. Yeah, there was that time at 80s that they had the I'm trying to think of the name of the place, but there's 4 big doubles in a row. And I'd hit them there a couple of weeks prior, but then someone had really changed the end jump and I'd come over the first 3 and just came up pretty short. Gave myself a bit of a fright there. But yeah, I'll just hit stuff still, as long as it's not too ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all right, tell us a little bit more about your family, your mum and dad. Tell us a bit more about them. Like, how did you get along with your mum and dad? Like, was everything always good, or?
Yeah. Well, our family's pretty good. They're pretty good at, everyone catches up regularly for meals and stuff like that. Keeps the family together. Yeah, not too much to report there.
No,
we're good. We're healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah, normal unit.
Mum's good.
Mum's
You
good.
like- yeah.
Yeah.
Dad.
Dad, yeah, don't see him as much. He's a veteran. He's pretty busted up from his sort of life of service. He was I think he was in the most highly decorated army unit in Vietnam, the training team. He was recently had a Order of Australia awarded to him. OAM, that's a pretty big,
That's pretty cool.
pretty big one.
Yeah.
So he's got a piece of lead he wears in his jacket to counterweigh his medals. So he's got a pretty big rack of gongs on him. So yeah.
So Anzac Day is an important day for him?
It is, yeah. We always take him into the march and do the thing. He can't walk anymore. He goes in the Jeep, but we're still always there for support. So
Tell us about Anzac Day. What are those days like for you? Like, you and your brother go, and is it something you do together?
yeah, take the kids and stuff. I think it's important for them to know what it's all about. Go down to the city march and all of that. But we'll follow the march down to the parade grounds and have a bacon, eggs, or a sausage, or a couple of beers. And then usually go home for a bit, and then it's off to the RSL for dinner. Let the elbow go.
Do you know many of his stories? Does he tell you stuff, or it keeps it to himself?
I mean, he's told us enough, but he's not. It's not. They're not the sort of stories that It's not like
Not glamorous.
Yeah, it's not glamorous.
No.
Yeah. It's
Tough gig.
tough gig. Yeah.
Fighting for your country,
He went through all the PTSD thing and took him a while to wave the flag and get the right help, and he sort of so that probably cost him a few marriages, but he's recognised his problems and addressed it, so he's all good now.
We've all got problems.
But yeah, so not a lot of the mentality was you don't say anything. It's a bit like the whole mental health stigma, isn't it? So it's getting a bit. People will talk about it. Where
More now.
Yeah, in their time, you just bury it and move on. So
Yeah. Do you adopt that thing, or do you adopt that way of thinking? If you've got a problem, do you tend to keep it in, or you share it with friends at the right time?
Yeah, I'm probably not that guy. I'm pretty. I just remove myself from conflict, so then I don't have to deal with it.
We're getting a few grey hairs, so you may be
Yeah.
keeping a couple of them in there. Yeah, I've got plenty. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, what else are we going to talk about? Do you remember when Grant busted himself? How you felt? I mean, I remember, I think, when we got the phone call that you had your mishap.
Yeah.
And when your mates, your heart drops and you go,
it's pretty
"Fuck, like,
confronting."
what can you do?
Yeah.
I mean, we've all had our crashes and falls and all the rest of it. Grant always took it to the next level, and he took it to the next level then.
Yeah.
Do you remember
yeah.
how you felt when you heard that news?
Yeah, it was pretty full on. But at the same time, he was going, doing stuff that just, it's testing the waters, doing stuff that no one's done, building these massive things and hitting them, and it's well, you just know in the back of your mind, you always know that what you're doing in these extreme sports. It's that risk, but yeah, it's pretty confronting when it actually happens to someone directly. Yeah.
But he's still loving life, living life now.
Yeah. He's loving it. He's still active and sending it. He's still the same old Grant, isn't he?
He is.
Yeah.
And so you grew up riding with your brother.
Yeah.
What was that like? Did you push each other? Like, what was that dynamic like?
Yeah, I think you always, we even as little kids, it would be like a brick and a plank of wood, and you hit it, and you see you can go the furthest, or that competitive nature with your brothers. It's,
and what's the age difference between you guys?
Almost exactly 2 years. Yeah, so always had to be doing the same thing. When we were young, it was like the same clothes. Oh, I want that jumper as well. You just have a different colour. I think Mum loved it. Made us all matchy. Yeah.
And so Dean's your big brother.
Big brother,
and
yeah.
you looked up to him, and then at some point you kind of evened out, and then you fed off each other.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it was always, when you're real young, you'd always pick on you, and you'd be doing the old typewriter and stuff. And I remember when I finally had the strength to turn around and give it to him, I don't think he ever tried it on me after that. We came even. Yeah.
You got a Dean story you can tell us? A funny one, doesn't have to be on bikes or...
Nothing I can think of.
Share on...
There's also,
We had some funny nights, didn't we?
Oh, we did.
We had some late nights.
Yeah.
What about, climbing on roofs through the city? Sometimes we'd go to town, and then after town, there used to be a few spots in Adelaide where you could get to rooftops, yeah?
Yeah.
Do you remember any of those nights?
Well, that was some fun. I remember one night, me and Matt Townsend. It was I think it was the main police headquarter extension on at Victoria Square there, and we've decided to go in there and climb up to the top of the building, and you can see all these torches. And what we didn't realise is that people had been in there stealing stuff, so cops were right onto it, and we're right up in this crane tower. And I sort of said, I think we should go find them before they find us, and got arrested and locked up and all that stuff. And I remember I was pretty young still. I remember ringing my mum, and she's answered the phone. I'm like, "Oh, Mum, I've been arrested. I'm in town. Can you pick me up?" And she's like, "No bloody way. You can catch the first train home." I was like, "Oh, great." I had to wait for the first train, catch it home. Came home with a towel between my legs. It was harmless fun, but they got us that time.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
And, go back to last couple of years of high school, or you finished year 12, I'm assuming?
No, I only finished year 10.
Okay.
Yeah, threw in the towel.
Yeah.
But straight into work. I think I've worked full-time ever since. I've never really had a break. I've always worked. So
I was chatting with Dwayne, and he said he finished in year 10 as well.
Yeah.
But then still you went on and studied, you did all this stuff.
I always done stuff on a full-time basis. So, I mean, a lot of people sort of did nothing, and they sort of didn't move anywhere too quick. But yeah, I was always working and had good work ethic. And
I mean, I don't think there's many young kids listening to this, but if you're doing year 11 and 12, what's your advice to them? Do you know?
Well, they don't seem to want a job, but all the young kids I know, they don't want to work at the supermarket because they'd be embarrassed if they saw their friend, or it's just the whole mentality's changed. I think we might be doomed in decades to come.
Yeah, no one wants to do any work. They want to work from home and have everything delivered.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, cool. Well, what's it like becoming a dad?
Yeah, it's pretty good. I started with a dog, so I got used to letting love in the house. I think Lauren had it all planned out, but it's pretty special. I mean, yeah, you've made a human. You get to program them. They sort of become everything, don't they? I like it.
How old's your daughter?
She's 5.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you work all week and do your thing, and then weekend sort of becomes family time, I guess. You go off and do all these adventures and walks through the park and do all these things that you sort of did as a youngster, and you sort of, take them camping, and it's good.
Is that a part of your weekends now? Like going away camping, like family, friends?
Yeah. We've always. I grew up camping, regularly, and we do the same thing. Sort of almost every long weekend we'll be away somewhere. So whether it be full driving or riding motorbikes or down to the beach, or I think it's pretty standard stuff.
Good fun.
Yeah.
Do you remember that Red Bull event? Like, cast your mind back to that one. Like, who'd you travel over there with? And do you remember how that kind of panned out?
The Jindabyne one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we went over with Dean and Marshy, I think, in the purple Pajero, bikes on the trailer. Drove through the night, I think. I think we camped in, I think we rolled the swags out on the footpath in some town on the way there, and then drove up in the morning.
And that was kind of the first, that was free, at the time they called it free ride, yeah?
Yeah.
But they had all sorts of strange obstacles and things like
seesaws and sort of like wooden kind of walkways with drop-offs and just technical rocks.
Was technical, strange.
Like trying to ride down cliffs, and it was different. It was a adaptation of trials riding in a way, but down a hill at pace.
Yeah, I don't think they've done stuff like that now. Like they haven't, like the seesaws and some of those, would have been expensive obstacles to create and drag them up a mountain and put them there to let guys try and ride down.
A lot of work went into it, yeah. I mean, but even the Rampage now over in the States, there's a lot of building going on there, isn't there?
You never got to any of those? No.
Nah. That was, I missed I got old.
What's it like getting old? How old are you now?
I'm 45, just turned 45 a couple of weeks ago.
And is this a good age of life to be at? If you look back at your years?
I still feel like I'm the same person I was when I was young. It's just my body's a bit slower and sorer. Nothing really changes. You're still the same person, aren't you?
So are these the best years, or do you reckon you had... do you excited to live life every day, or did you go back, I really fucking nailed it back then?
Yeah, I definitely think I've made the most out of my life through various stages. The bikes, the Thai boxing. Like I've done a lot. I hope there's not a lot of gaps. I've always been active in something.
Pushing for the next thing.
Pushing, yeah. It's just
looking for the next thing.
Yeah, looking for the next thing. Yeah.
What do you think the next? Have you got a next thing? Like you've got a good business going. Like, is there a next thing in the back of your mind?
Maybe like get into adventure bike riding, go ride around Australia, with the panniers or something like that. I don't know. Maybe motorsport. I've always had the finger in the pulse with cars. I like working on cars and driving cars fast. I've got a little Datsun 1600 and a RS4, which are just for fun purposes. I like going fast.
So what's the near future like for you? What do you got, I think, coming up that's interesting, exciting, that you're looking forward to?
Not really. Probably some holidays. I'm just going to take the family on some holidays. Busy with work. There's not a lot of time left. Just enjoy family life, get work done. I don't know. No real plans.
Night riding.
Yeah,
Mountain bike night riding.
we should do more of it. That's pretty cool. Like on, regularly once or twice a week. We're pretty big groups. It was good. I'd like to do more of it.
What sort of bike are you riding now for all the fans out there?
Well, I've got an e-bike, so I've just got a Specialized Canevo. Been riding that for the last few years. It's good.
How good are e-bikes?
Well, you don't have to have that base fitness to go fast, and you can still ride them fast, and you can go further. I think the battery life's enough. You get 3 hours of hard riding, and that's probably enough. A couple of times I could have done with a spare battery on some of the Melrose rides, but
Yeah, Melrose. We've been out there a few times.
That
People
epic,
listening, tell
did.
someone, should they be stoked? Should they go to Melrose?
It's definitely worth that epic trail. I don't know if I could make it on an analogue, without the assistance, but it is epic. It lives up to its name.
Explain Melrose for someone that's never been there.
So it's what's Mount Remarkable. It's a pretty big mountain. Just sort of, it's kind of the gateway to the Flinders Ranges, I guess, the first of the big hills. And it's like a sort of a long hill range. Recently they've built this epic trail. I mean, there's always been a mountain bike network through there, but sort of only in the base of the hills. They've really used it well. So,
and you got a good mate that lives at Melrose there.
Yeah, old Homer bought a house up there early in the piece, and he gets up there fairly often. So we go up there and ride.
And Homer Glen Hollow, hopefully we'll get him on here for a chat as well. But he was a big part of the mountain bike scene in the early days.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, he started off in the courier days and sort of grew that network. A lot of the guys were couriers back in the day. That's sort of where they all met, and they sort of progressed into the downhill and various scenes, didn't they? So, but yeah, he's been around forever and a day.
What did he used to do that you recall in the sport of mountain biking? He wasn't a racer as such.
But he was always there, and he's a master craftsman on the shovel. He's a master track builder. He's really good. He's got all the moves. Perfection. Remember
House.
They had that Gump House, and I guess the brief was they wanted to be able to let a tennis ball go and have it roll the whole way down the hill around these berms. It was almost like a bobsled track. And geez, we had some good evenings and nights there, didn't we?
Yeah,
just riding non-stop, on the cans, and all sorts happening. People riding motorised scooters down there, and
because he was living. Gump House was a place at Blackwood Way.
Blair, I guess. They were renting. It was like Marshy, Homer. I think Myers was there, or next door, or something. And was it Joff's house? I
next
can't
door.
remember.
I think Joff was next door. Joff Meta from Inside Line. I think he's still involved in it.
And then, so I think it was a combined yard frontage. This Gump track. It was something else.
And explain it. Can you remember it? Explain.
Yeah, it's sort of reminiscent of a bobsled track. So you drop in, and then there'll be this massive kind of 2 metre high berm, and you'd follow that around, and it was all gravity fed. You could rail it, like you'd actually be horizontal around corners, a few jumps here and there, but it was literally like a bobsled track. It was very unique. You don't see that very often.
Yeah, it's good fun. Fun. All right, party night. Do you remember a night out? That we can discuss appropriately at some of these mountain bike events. We travelled to a few interstate ones.
Yeah, I mean, we spoke briefly about the Canberra and Beauty. What about Mount Buller? There was the old Hans Grimace or whatever, and he was just the life of the party. He used to have his snuff, his bloody stinging up everyone's noses, and he
Like
had
some sort of sniffing tobacco or something.
yeah, some sort of just high projectile tobacco up your nose, makes the eyes water. And he had his spoon game where you'd like wrap each other around the knuckles, and yeah, he was like life of the party. I'm not sure if he's around anymore.
I think he's passed. He's passed. But that was some pretty fun times.
Yeah.
And what was that like going into state, and you meet the guys from interstate, and you hang out with the guys from interstate?
I mean, you got 200-300 like-minded people, you know, racing hard during the day and letting the elbow go at night. It was just, the atmosphere was something else, wasn't it? Yeah, some good times.
Definitely some good times.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Well, I reckon this has been a fucking awesome chat, and I'll definitely be keen to do it again.
Yeah.
And we might call it a wrap.
Yeah, let's call it a wrap.
We might say thanks for coming.
Yep.
We'll see you on the next one.
No worries. Thanks, Ollie.
Good job.
Cheers.
Thanks, mate.